This is the book of Sirach, chapter 44, and verse 1. It says, "Let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begot us." I want to give all honor and glory and infinite praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Rachak, double honor to the elders and apostles of GMS. Peace and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing His word in truth and sincerity. And for this lesson, I'm going to continue on my breakdown of the book of Sirach. Currently, right now, I am on Sirach, the 48th chapter. So I'm gonna let the priestess speak. And Adoran Tazal, Lord willing, this lesson is edifying. So I'll start off with Sirach chapter 44 because that's what these following chapters are going into, right? It's going into our different forefathers who earned a righteous legacy because of their faith, and the Most High, He decided to show forth, wondrous deeds by these particular men, right? So right now I'm on Sirach chapter 48. So this is verse 1. It says, "Then stood up Elias the prophet as fire, and his word burned like a lamp." And Elias is Elijah. It says verse 2, "He brought a sore famine upon them, and by his zeal he diminished their number." So Elijah prophesied of a famine that would take place for 3 years, and the Most High brought that to pass. Verse 3, "By the word of the Lord he shut up the heaven, and also 3 times brought down fire." So Elijah caused the famine, and he also brought down fire from heaven. You can read that account in the book of Kings, right? You had the prophets of Baal and Elijah, who was proving which God is real, right? Is the God of Baal real, or is the God of the scriptures, right? The God of Israel, is He real? And the Most High established that He is the power that ruleth in the earth, because He's the one that brought down fire. So verse 4 says, "O Elias, how wast thou honored in thy wondrous deeds, and who made glory like unto thee?" Yeah, so the Most High did a lot of works, miracles, wondrous deeds through Elijah. Right? It doesn't stop there. Verse 5, it says, "Who did is raise up a dead man from death, and his soul from the place of the dead by the word of the Most High." Yeah, so Elijah also brought up somebody from the dead, right? Not a lot of men in the scriptures brought up people from the dead, a handful, and Elijah was one of them, right? So that's a wondrous deed. Verse 6, it says, who brought his kings to destruction, and honorable men from their bed." Yeah, Elijah prophesied of the downfall of different kings. Verse 7, it says, "Who heardest the rebuke of the Lord in Sinai, and in Horeb the judgment of vengeance." Yeah, the Most High told him not to doubt, don't waver in his faith. The Most High was dealing with Elijah, right, on a heavy level, on a high level. Verse 8, it says, "Who will notice kings to take revenge, and prophets to succeed after him." Yeah, so he prophesied of the downfall of kings. The Most High was dealing with them, right? Wondrous works came through Elijah. He anointed his kings, right? King Jehu, and prophets to succeed after him, right? Elisha. Verse 9, it says, "Who was taken up in a whirlwind of fire, and in a chariot of fiery horses." The Most High took Elijah off of the earth. The Most High had a chariot, stopped by Elijah, right? I believe that's 2 Kings, the 2nd chapter, if I'm not mistaken, right? But it was a whole thing, right? It was a whole show. A number of people came and stood and watched the Most High send forth chariots for Elijah, right? The Most High's angelic vehicles, and he was beamed up into a chariot. Verse 10, it says, "Who was ordained for proofs in their times, to pacify the wrath of the Lord's judgment before it break forth into fury, and to turn the heart of the father unto the son, and to restore the tribes of Jacob." That prophecy is also written in Malachi chapter 4, which that prophecy was fulfilled as well, right? Elijah the prophet would return in the last days, and the truth of the scriptures will begin to flourish. Verse 11, it says, "Blessed are they that saw thee, and slept in love, for we shall surely live." Yeah, so blessed are all those that saw thee and slept in love, for we shall surely live. Verse 12, it says, "Elias it was who was covered with a whirlwind. And Elisha was filled with his spirit whilst he lived. He was not moved with the presence of any prince, neither could any bring him into subjection. So Elijah got took up by a chariot, and Elisha was filled with Elijah's spirit, right? They said that Elisha had double of Elijah's spirit. So the Most High was dealing with Elisha as well on a high level. Let's read that again. It says, and Elisha was filled with the spirit whilst he lived. He was not moved with the presence of any prince, neither could any bring him into subjection. Yeah, so the Most High deals with his prophets once again on a different level, right? You could be a king, you could be a judge. It doesn't matter what position or authority you have. The highest position or authority that you can have in the eyes of the Most High is being a prophet, which is why it says the Most High, he loveth the gates of Jerusalem, right? It says, blessed are the feet of those that preach the good tidings, right? The good news. So the Most High deals with his prophets above all else. Verse 13, it says, no word could overcome him, and after his death, his body prophesied. So when Elisha passed away and his spirit went back to the spiritual world, his bones did miracles, right? He brought somebody back to life through his bones. Once again, right? That's a wondrous deed. You know, that's something unheard of. So the Most High, he showed forth his power through his men. It says, verse 14, he did wonders in his life, and at his death were his works marvelous. So that's a wonderful work, right? That's a marvelous work. Verse 15, for all this the people repented not, neither departed they from their sins, till they were spoiled and carried out of their land, and were scattered through all the earth. Yet there remained a small people and a ruler in the house of David. So this was around the time of this. Well, this is going into when Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom both went into captivity, right? The Northern Kingdom went into captivity through the Assyrians, and the Southern Kingdom went into captivity through the Babylonians. Our people were scattered all throughout the earth, but there always remained a small people. Who is that? That's the remnant. That's the elect that will always remain faithful, you know, to the Heavenly Father. It says, and a ruler in the house of David. Give me 1 second. I'm just reading in GNT. Salakia. All right, I got the history just a little bit wrong in this particular part, right? The Northern Kingdom went into captivity. The Southern Kingdom didn't go into captivity as of yet, because it's going to go into Hezekiah. And Hezekiah was a king of Judah. So the Northern Kingdom went into captivity under the Assyrians. The Southern Kingdom did go into captivity on the Babylonians, but it just wasn't yet. Right, so let's read that again. For all this the people repented not, neither departed they from their sins, till they were spoiled and carried out of their land, and were scattered through all the earth. Yet there remained a small people and a ruler in the house of David, of whom some did that which was pleasing to God, and some multiplied sins. Right, so Israel was scattered, the Northern Kingdom, and you had kings that ruled through Judah. Some did wickedly, and some did righteously. Verse 17, Hezekiah fortified the city and brought in water into the midst thereof. He digged a hard rock with iron and made wells for waters. So yeah, this is referring to Hezekiah now, right? One of the righteous kings of Judah. It says, in his time, Sennacherib came up and sent Rabascus and lifted up his hand against Zion and boasted proudly. That's the Assyrian general. Yeah, that's the Assyrian general, I believe. Verse 19, then troubled their hearts and hands, and they were in pain as women in travail. So, the Southern Kingdom at this time was under attack by the Assyrian Empire, and they was fearful. Why? Because you just had the Northern Kingdom that went into captivity, and the Assyrians, they was, you know, getting a lot of victories and winning a lot of battles. Now let's see what our people did. Verse 20, but they called upon the Lord, which is merciful, stretched out their hands toward him, and immediately the Holy One heard them out of heaven and delivered them by the ministry of Isaiah. So they called upon the Heavenly Father, right? They prayed unto the Most High. The Most High, he's pleased with prayer. He's pleased with faith. And he heard them, right? He delivered them by the ministry of Isaiah. Verse 21, he smote the host of the Assyrians, and his angel destroyed them. Yeah, that's written in Isaiah. I believe that's chapter 35. 185,000 Assyrians were killed by an angel in one night. So it says, for Hezekiah had done the thing that pleased the Lord, and was strong in the ways of David his father. And Isaiah the prophet, who was great and faithful in his vision, had commanded him. Yeah, we had the book of Isaiah today, and there's a whole bunch of prophecies in Isaiah, right? The Most High showed a lot into Isaiah, right? Hezekiah, he was one of the righteous kings, and he did that which was right in the eyes of the Most High. And what's that? Faith and the commandments, right? The scriptures. Verse 23 says, in his time the sun went backward in his length, and he lengthened the king's life. That's only written twice, or that count was only found twice, or happened twice in the book. One for Joshua, and another for Hezekiah, right? Joshua made the sun stand still, and through Isaiah and Hezekiah prayer and his righteousness, the Most High made the sun go backwards. What is that? That's a wondrous deed. That's a miraculous deed, right? All through these men, right? Their works, and the Most High having mercy upon them. Verse 24 says, he saw by an excellent spirit which should come to pass at the last, and he comforted them that mourned in Zion. Going into Isaiah, he shewed what should come to pass forever, in secret things or ever they came. The Most High showed a lot to the prophet Isaiah, which is why his book is called one of the major books, even though each book is major. So that's Sirach, the 48th chapter. With that, I want to give all honor and glory, infinite praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Achak Wadash, Shalom.